play the soundtrack, I think. And then play a prog set afterwards, I think. I don't know for sure. And I can't verify it because I won't be there because it's a Tuesday night. Oh, that reminds me. I think there's a Kraftwerk song called that. Sack. Not like sack, but sack. Boing Boom Sack. No, Boing Boom Chalk, I think it is. But it's spelt like that. Also another good band. That's Kraftwerk, spelt with a K, and work is spelt with an E because they don't spell it in English. They liked to pretend they were robots. Pretty cool stuff. Although I don't know if I'd go see them live. Unlike Goblin, which I'd definitely go see live. I would also go see live if you could promise me 2 people in like fur coats were gonna fight a orange cabbage. But I've never seen tickets for that, so. And also, I don't care. It has to be on like a Friday or a Saturday. I ain't doing anything on a weekday night past 5 p.m. Sorry. That's why they're talking about increasing solar panel manufacturing. There's a company in like Maine doing it or something, but they saw Solar Beam and they're like, that's pretty cool. So the thing about it, it's like, what if you could toast, but you could toast without a toaster? And that's basically what was going through their heads. And that's why people are kind of finally getting like caught on to solar panels. Because I've talked to some people about it, and especially it seems like amongst older people, like they're like, why would I want solar panels on the roof of my house? It looks ugly. I don't even think it looks ugly. I think it looks cool. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could do it in an ugly way, but it like they're not even that gaudy. They're just panels. Actually, okay. All right, hold on. You need to take a step back here. You need to breathe in deeply. I'm being a hypocrite. I'm going to admit that right now, okay? Because I despise the skyscrapers with the glass panels on the side. Sorry, don't like them. They look ugly. They all look the same to me, even though they're different shapes sometimes. But I don't want to see a reflection of the sky. I want to see the building. The building's there anyway. You ain't fooling me when you put glass walls there. I want to see like a stone building. Like, I don't know. Just saying. I like some of that like late 1800s, like especially opera house stuff. Like there's, man, some cool buildings. But none of them are glass skyscrapers. And the moral of the story is, for some reason, I don't hear people much complaining about skyscraper design, but I do hear people saying, solar panels don't look good on my roof. Well, wrong. They look better on your roof than they do on the buildings. And they're not even powering anything when they're on the side of the buildings. It's just windows. Sometimes I don't even think they're windows, because there's certain maintenance floors, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, where it's supposed to look like reflective like the rest of the building, but there's no office space there, there's no residential space there, it's just maintenance floors. Especially in some of the taller buildings, there's just nothing in those floors. I could be wrong, but I'm not wrong. Anyways. Moral of the story, solar panels pretty good. I mean, I've never tasted one, but I'm just assuming. Also, if anyone wants me to hire, like, if anyone wants to hire me to design a building for them, I will. But just a warning, I'm not super great at math, so I'm not giving you, like, any reassurances on structural integrity. which is the same thing I say when I'm about to play this game. No guarantees on the structural integrity. See, it's a shame that, I don't know which in the skin is which is Nana and which is Popo, but it's a shame that one of them isn't orange, because then they'd be fighting each other, but it would be one of those like sad things where it's like, why are we fighting? We have so much in common. They got like the same color scheme going. But it wasn't meant to be. Instead, we have off-white colored coat. Yellowish kind of cream color, I guess. I don't know. Hard to tell with the CRT sometimes. You know, you think like, oh, it's a color, but then it's like the thing you don't have to really factor in at all on screens, which is pretty convenient, but you have to factor in if you're like matching paint and all that kind of stuff, is like you get red light and you get blue light and all these different lights, and a paint can look the same as another batch of paint under one light and then completely different under a different light, and you never have to deal with that on a computer because it's a screen. It's just displaying the color you tell it to. But there's a lot of factors in colors. It's pretty crazy stuff. Eyeballs are pretty crazy. It's one of those kind of things where if you were advertising something with like really crazy visuals, like you were trying to get people to show up to like a play or whatever, it's like, you have to come see this, and they're like, we need a marketing name that's like really describes like something new, something no one's really seen before. The way I think you would get the most people to come see it, if they're interested in that kind of zany visual stuff, like I'm talking like something like that kind of is different for the time, you know, like 1967 Pink Floyd with the flashing lights on the reflective guitar and that kind of stuff, like crazy for the time. If you're doing something like that, I would think that the best way to advertise it would be like, come experience the ocular psychosis. You know what I mean? You'd be like, what does that mean? That'd be pretty cool. I don't know how successful it would be, but I would definitely go check it out. I guess this is time for the meditation minute here. It's good. That's what I'm doing. This isn't related to anything because I don't know, I've probably touched ice climbers before. But I don't really have anything to say about that because I don't remember it. I probably was like blackout or something. And despite my extensive experience, I don't have anything to say about Ivysaur. So all I can say is this, and this is something I realized recently, and this is just a general thing. It has nothing to do with either of these players, unless they were watching this back for some reason and didn't mute the audio yet and found it useful, which is, I realized this when I was playing the bass guitar, right? And this ties into controllers and how you grip stuff, which is like optimal, especially like session musicians who like just go in and record for other people and you don't really see their names very much. They're on a ton of recordings, but like they're not famous, you know? You don't go like, oh, it's so-and-so, it's Mick Jagger, it's Keith Richards. Those are guys from the same band. I should have named a different band. But anyways, the point is, you don't really most people don't really know who they are. But they do stuff in the most optimal way. Like, it's the least hand movement they need to make the motions that they need to make. And I was playing the bass, and I had my wrist at this angle, and I realized when I would use I was playing a certain line, which was the bass line for A Day at the Races by Jurassic 5, and I kept twisting my wrist in this angle, and it started getting sore. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to destroy my wrist playing this instrument. And there's this video I was watching, and they made a really good point. And they're like, when you feel that kind of pressure, you have to kind of work it down through your body and just kind of loosen it. Like, if you let your arms hang out in front of you just with like the absolute minimum tension, because sometimes it's the same thing with if you're playing and you're kind of focused on the game and you realize you haven't been breathing properly. It's the same kind of thing where it's like you might not realize the amount of tension building in your hands or in your wrists or in your arms, and you kind of want to work that out and use the absolute minimal, as if the controller isn't there, as if you don't have to hold anything, the minimal amount of pressure possible. And just kind of every time you feel that kind of build-up in the hands or the wrists or whatever, you just kind of have to, loosen out, shake it out, kind of. I mean, I guess you could also do, wrist exercises and, finger exercises and, other things that'll probably help, push-ups or whatever. I don't know. But I'm just thinking about it from that perspective, because I never even thought about that. I don't even remember when I started trying to play bass, or for that matter guitar, years ago for that one. But I never thought about tension. You don't think it, because you're oh, I'm going fast. I'm concentrated. I'm gonna tense up. Your body wants to tense up, but you don't want to tense up because that puts unnecessary pressure on joints for no reason. And it's kind of one of those things you have to kind of think about and consciously relax, breathe in and just kind of let it go. And that makes things more optimal. So I don't know if that helps anybody at all, because literally no one brought this up. I'm just talking about this, but it's one of those kinds of things that could be helpful. I don't know. It's more relevant than 95% of the other stuff I've said today. Not even just talking about commentary. It's more relevant than the things I was talking about when I was in the drive-through line, because they locked the doors, the front doors of the Dunkin' Donuts when they saw me coming. So whenever I tug the handle, it's closed, because he's coming, shut the doors. Let it go through the drive-through. But yeah, it could be relevant. I don't know. Serb's controller problems are completely unrelated to that, I'm sure. But just if it's ever relevant, you think if you start getting pain in a joint or a limb and you don't stretch or any of that stuff, it's another kind of approach to it. It's think about the tension that you might be putting on it in the same way you might want to think about the breathing that's occurring or not occurring. In the same thing, I've noticed it. You do it with playing a bass line and you're kind of tough and you're kind of tensing up and you forget you're not breathing properly, and if you're not breathing properly, you're not playing properly. Same thing with Smash. I noticed that when I want to win, at least personally, I won't be breathing properly, and you kind of realize it. You gotta kind of just, and it's same with the limb tension. Just saying. I've been playing this game on and off. I mean, you got to negate the past, since whenever the pandemic started and I couldn't actually net play or play anymore. But I started, 2015? And I never even thought about tension until recently when I was playing the bass and I realized it was impeding my gameplay. And then I realized, hold on, this also translates to the controller, even though I don't really use the controller much anymore. But I thought about it anyway. I was like, hold on, this kind of applies to everything. You don't want to tense up. It's like if you tense up in a car crash, it's worse for you. That's why people who are drunk have stupid outcomes, even though they're the ones causing the problem when they're driving. It's you wonder oh, they got in this crazy crash and they're fine. It's it's because they're loose. Your body should be loose. You shouldn't be drunk when you're driving. But anyways, I'm just saying, looseness is optimal, right? So you kind of want that looseness and everything. Like, the least amount of motion to achieve the goal. It's not laziness, it's efficiency, especially because it's not like, you know, like dramatically, you know, you press the trigger and you kind of like flip and you do like jazz hands. It's like, yeah, okay, it looks cool when you do jazz hands while you're playing Smash, but like you don't need to. It's not optimal.